All right, guys, so what you missed was me loading this up on the back of the black truck and dragging it back home. I couldn't quite finish in that single day because it really turned out to be a whole rebuild on this thing, well, at least pieces of it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna finish this thing out here at my home. But anyway, let's get cracking on this thing. Now that I'm all set up, I'm gonna go ahead and wire wheel all the flash rust I got on everything. Because in Florida, everything pretty much flash rusts overnight because of the humidity. So go around, I'll prep this all out real quick. And then we're gonna go ahead weld this patch in. Weld the doohickey that goes in the back of this onto the back of it. And then go ahead and try to straighten the cutting edge out. And then put the angle iron support behind the cutting edge, and then go ahead weld some cracks up, and I think that'll be the whole job. This is not flat. This is. So I have to try to make this match this. And so what I'm doing is just welding it in places where it's actually matching. That's why you can see me run my glove behind it. Wherever it's actually matching, I'll go ahead and weld it solid, and then I need to beat the rest of this back into shape. Definitely not some of my best work. I'm having a little bit of an off day, but there is no excuses in this game, especially when you're self-employed. If this breaks or cracks, the customer will definitely call me back and make me come out and repair it for free. So I need to figure out what my issue is and solve it today. That's all there is to it. After prepping the section I needed to re-weld, I decided to go ahead and prep the rest of the box blade. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get the porter power out. And we're going to go ahead and straighten that lip with the porter power. I don't know what about this here. I'm going to need to get my heating head out and beat that back in order to get that straight. But the rest of this, I think I can just push it out with the porter power. Unfortunately, the porter power idea is not going to work if you can't tell by this point. So I'll have to come up with something different. You can see how bent the edge is even with the porter power pushing it. All right, so I actually stepped away from this project for a few days to try to wrap my head around everything. It's not a super difficult project, but I had the luxury of doing that because the customer does not need this back right away. So the plan I came up with to try to straighten this edge out is we're going to take some D-rings and weld them at, I'm not really sure how far apart yet, and we're going to go ahead and pull this thing forward and hopefully pull it out enough to slip the angle iron in there. I'm hoping that's going to do the trick, but we'll find out. These are going to get caught off anyway, so I'm not really worried about having them perfectly straight. Gotten this piece here pretty much straightened out. This actually worked a lot better than I thought it would. I've never done that before, but that was just something I came up with while I was laying in bed one night, which is sometimes how your best ideas come. So we've got our adjustable wrenches on this thing. That's my preferred method for grabbing hold of flat pieces like this that I'm trying to bend. We've got our rosebud torch all hooked up and ready to go. I've got the settings dialed in. We're going to go ahead and try to straighten this piece right here. While I was loading this up, I was talking to Willie about it, and apparently they were using this thing to try to grade asphalt, and that's how it got worn out so bad. I'm not even sure how you'd grade asphalt with it, but that was what I was told. This plate was pretty difficult to get to cherry red in order to bend it. I was just going to try to use the heat on one side of it and let it dissipate and bend itself back, but it wasn't working. It leads me to believe this is some sort of hard ox or AR plate or some sort of high carbon steel plate, which makes sense because it is the pushing and cutting end of a box blade. See, it's still got a little bit of a warp in it, but it's pretty good. I think I can use the piece of angle iron that we have for this thing over there and use that to straighten it out the rest of the way. It's really not too far off anymore. Before it was so far off you couldn't even get the angle iron in there. So all we have to do left, because you can see over here, see how it's still risen and then it slowly drops down to where it's supposed to be. We need to get in here and nip this one still. I must have missed it. We'll just figure out how low to nip it by the measurement between there and there. We'll go ahead and cut that one. All right, now we're getting caught up on this one. All right, so the next problem I'm having here is right here is still a little bowed out. So we need to heat this and beat that back down. Well, unfortunately, I didn't get the video of me heating and beating that back in, but we've got this thing pretty well into place now. If you look in there, there's very minimal gap compared to what there was earlier. What we need to do is just go in there, prep that out, and then pull the angle iron off, and then go ahead, get our holes matched up, and then go ahead and drill those out. When they put the cutting edge back on, that should pull all, and bolt this, it should pull all of that lip back straight. So I'm not too concerned about this lip. All right, I've got everything grounded and prepped. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slam this back in, make sure everything fits, mark it, and hopefully start mag drilling. Let this thing tighten up. Oh, I know what it is, because I tightened that. Little white spray paint. I like white spray paint better than I like black, because it shows up a little bit easier. You don't want to spray paint too much, because then it'll run. You just want to give it a couple of puffs. Nothing crazy, and far away too, so that way it only goes through the hole. Doesn't spread out too much. All right, let that dry. We'll give it a couple of minutes to dry because we don't want to pull it off and rub the paint and lose our mark. What you see me doing here is just center punching the holes so that everything lines up nice and straight. So I happen to have this bit here. It's a 7/8. It works out perfect. It's just slightly bigger than the holes over there, so I guess those are either metric or they're wallered out, and they're really like, I don't know, I guess 13/16 or something like that. There's a centering point in these annular bits, and basically what I do is I just knock a little notch into each of these things with a center punch, and then I use this little point here to line up the annular bit. That simple. I always take the first hole nice and slow because you want to make sure you get all the bugs worked out on the first one and you're not working through it the rest of the time. So you can see why one of these mag drills is kind of necessary if you're in this industry. It just makes quick work out of these holes. Whereas normally if you try to do that with a hand drill, I mean, you'd be here all day on just that one. And then as far as these shavings go that fall into the grass, I carry a magnet on wheels. So I'll just go ahead and run around when we're done with this project and clean my mess up. That way I'm not driving over my stuff and getting holes in my tires. For those wondering, it's taking me roughly a minute to cut each hole. And for oil, I used to use this Rotomagic, which is great, but honestly, I just use the bottle now. This is just used motor oil and water mixed together. I'll probably put this out in like a tips and tricks video one of these days. Sorry, Jody, didn't mean to steal that from you. So you see how nice these holes are coming out, perfectly aligned. We just got 4 more to do. Well, as you can see, I mean, that's super fast. So we got all 7 holes drilled. We'll take this thing, throw it over there, and make sure the holes align. Looks like we did a pretty damn good job. They all line up pretty well. Gotta remember there's still a gap in between, so that's kind of what you're seeing when there's those little air spaces. But all of them line up pretty much dead nuts. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now what we're gonna do is tack this thing in place and then release our little chain and binder setup we have going on here. That actually worked out really well. So if you guys ever need to like bend a bucket out or a box blade or a drum, I would suggest you do that with the D-rings and the chain and binder. I always keep about 6 D-rings on me because I never know when I'm gonna have to weld a pick point or even just do something weird like this. Those D-rings are really a lifesaver when you need them. So I opt to use 60-10 to put this thing back together. I didn't want to use 70-18 because it just seemed like there was too much asphalt embedded into this thing. And every time I tried to strike off with it, I don't know if it was the rod itself or the material, but I was having issues. So 60-10 it was. I wish I had 70-10 for this application. Now that we have the chain loose, you can see it really lined up pretty well. We'll just take an F-clamp to that, no big deal. But yeah, much straighter now. So I went ahead and bent a rod here so I could get between the box blade and the angle iron and try to weld that back into place like you seen me cutting it out in the first video. And here I'm just using the rat tail end of a pry bar to pull the 2 sections back it up into each other. And this is why I welded the sides first, because I noticed the lull in the middle of the box blade. So there's a couple of things going on here. I decided to go ahead and weld the cut edge all the way down. It wasn't originally like that, but I figure this way it'll give it a little more strength, a little more rigidity. And that rod you see me stick into place, the reason I did that was so I knew where to stop where the bend started.
Oh, you guys missed me welding about half of this thing. I don't know how much of the end part there you've seen, but as you can tell, it's getting dark out. So I'm done with the angle iron portion of this. I just need to clean up and weld out some cracks. Probably take care of that tomorrow at some point. But all right, I'll catch you tomorrow. All right, guys, I'm back on it. It's Sunday today. Most people are out enjoying their day. I'm kind of enjoying my day, you know. I don't know. I kind of like working on stuff. What's left of this project shouldn't take us more than an hour, maybe 2, maybe 3, I don't know. And we're gonna knock this off here, place that little piece, and then right here, we're gonna go ahead and fix this crack, this crack, this crack, this crack, and that's it. So we're gonna fix those 4 cracks. I don't believe there's anything else. I know I need to do something with this steel here. It doesn't like lock right or something. But we're going to go ahead and wait until we deliver this because I don't understand how this works. And I really think I need to hook it up to a tractor in order to repair that part right there. It's worth saying that this was a get it to work job, not a make it perfect job. All right, so that was pretty cool. I just had this sitting around. It's a little small. Let's see if we can, yeah, we'll turn it that way. Sweet. So this is why I always save my drop, because you never know. So let's cut this down to size. All right. It's good to me. So while I get the grinder out, I'm gonna go ahead and grind my cracks out. fire up the old miller and start taking care of these cracks. Guys, all that's left for me to do is clean up and get this thing loaded into the bed of my truck, and that's it. The project's done. Well, that's it. I'll tell you what, guys, that was a nerve-wracking one, getting that into the bed. This thing is heavy. I mean, I'm pretty sure my crane is maxed. But anyway, I'm Melton Metal Anthony. If you like what you saw here today, give me a like, subscribe, share the video, do what you can, comment, tell me I'm an idiot. I really don't care. Anyway, I'll catch you next time.